Please note, this video is about sensitive topics. In this conversation, we talk about loneliness, mental health, and suicide. Even though we also talk about how to deal with these feelings, if you are struggling with suicidal thoughts at the moment or get impacted negatively by discussing the subject, this video may not be for you. If, at any point, you feel overwhelmed, don't hesitate to stop watching. If you need help or are worried about someone else, the next slide provides some useful resources. You can find these in the description too, as well as at the end of the video. In our beautiful LGBTQ plus community, we often come together when the threat comes from the outside. We also get together to hang out and have fun. But what I wondered is, do we ever really still take the time to sit down and have a conversation about things that truly matter? Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to this very special Pride project we don't talk about. This is the last episode and today I have a very special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Maarten and Lolo. I was head of LGBT community CEST in Rotterdam. It's we took care. We take care about a lot of problems there are in our community, and one of the things are the issues that we are talking today.
Yes, because this project is called We Don't Talk About.
Yeah.
And everyone came up with something that they felt wasn't talked about enough.
Yeah.
Today we have a pretty serious subject, but I think it's one of the most important subjects. So what is it that you want to talk about?
Yeah, the biggest thing is in our community, but also outside our community, there are three issues that we don't talk enough about, and we only talk when it's too late. And I think it's good to discuss it before that. And these things are loneliness, depression, and also suicide.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to have a deep dive into these subjects. If you need help yourself, at the end and in the description of this video, we will list several ways you can find help, mainly for the Netherlands, the United States, and the UK, but I also try to help you along on how to find helplines in other countries if you need to. Now, having said that, let's get into it.
Yeah, the first difficult one is loneliness. I think it's, I don't know if you know about it, but I know a lot of people who are feeling lonely, real lonely, because in our community you always have to smile, and you always have to act like if you're okay. And if you talk about the difficult issues, then people are they try to ignore it, and I think it's a difficult one.
Our gatherings usually are of the social nature, in a bar or at a festival, and people want to come there to have a party.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, and because it's already difficult enough, because there is a lot of hate against our community, we don't want to talk about the results of that hate and about the things. So
we come for a distraction.
Yeah, and the strange thing was, also in our organization, we don't like to talk about these problems because these are too heavy. But last time I went in with the Congress, and I asked there was a big room with, I guess, 300-400 people, and I asked who you have you have the moment when you feel lonely, but you also have loneliness.
Yes.
And I asked about the whole, like, to the people from put on your hands up if you had the feeling about loneliness. And I thought maybe a few people were putting their hands up in the air, and almost everybody put their hands up. And then I saw, this is really a big issue, and we really have to talk about it.
It must have been a goosebumps moment as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not just knowing that something is present, but present on such a scale.
Yeah.
And indeed, like you said, there's such a big difference between being alone and being lonely.
Yeah. Yeah, and
because you can be lonely in a room full of people.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know that there are big problems. I know the feeling about loneliness. That's why it's so important for me to.
It's close to home for you.
Yeah, when I was around my 20s, I lived in a small town called Hilversum. There was one big gay bar, and it wasn't a nice scenery. But I didn't have real friends because from Monday till Friday. I just worked, and when I was at home, I was watching television or doing something else. And on Saturday, I was happy, so I could meet my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, and that's. But the worst thing is when you're feeling loneliness, you really need one or two friends where you can call and say, "I have a shitty day. Can we talk about it?"
Yeah, or even just get to the point where you have the freedom to say out loud, I am feeling this, and someone listens. Because sometimes it's just as simple as that small little thing. It doesn't always have to be a big conversation, but hey, I really feel lonely right now.
No.
Can we talk? Can you come over? Anything.
Give me a hug.
Yeah.
That kind of easy things. And it's you say it's the little things, but I think it's so difficult to ask for help.
Yes.
Because you have your pride, and you don't want to show that you are lonely, but
that you're not feeling okay.
Yeah.
That's also the way we name things like this. We say not okay, but it is okay not to feel okay.
Yeah, but and the funny thing is, a lot of people feel lonely.
So many.
Yeah, and if you talk about it, I know for sure that you get the same answer from our people in our community. Absolutely. That they say, yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah. And maybe they are at that moment also lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. But what did you have this feeling sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. At several different points in my life, both related to my queer life, as I call it, as well as outside of that. All my life I've been struggling with mental health problems. And aside from that, I have always known that I was different than the rest. And
the shitty feeling.
Well, the road towards where I finally figured out what all those differences were, and that's all fine and good and well, and that I can be really happy living a full life with all those differences and embracing them, took me a really long time. And there were some bits of the being different that really didn't matter that much to me, but there were parts of it where I felt lonely in the feeling of being different.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was the only one that felt that way or that dealt with
a specific thing.
Yeah.
And what the contradiction is with me is I've been always very open about everything and anything.
Yeah.
But those feelings that were closest to my heart, I never shared because, especially as a teen, I had this delusion, and I laugh about it now. But I was this naive teenage girl that thought that she could save the world. But by saving the world, I needed to be strong for everyone around me. So I always welcomed everyone to share their stories with me, and I kept everything to myself. And it took me years and years and years to realize why that was. But it was because everything that I felt, all those feelings were related to something that I couldn't really place myself, and I didn't quite always know how to word it, or and I was afraid of being looked at as a weirdo.
I think it's because also you have. It was in my position. I'm gay, and first I was feeling like when I was young there was not as many icons as there are now on television or at the movies or on YouTube. We didn't have internet, so it sounds very old. But I really felt lonely, and you really feel like a freak because nobody in your surrounding. All the boys had girlfriends, and they were all asking, "Hey, Maarten, this girl really likes you," and yes, she's cute, but yeah, and then you are dating because but it really felt lonely because you cannot talk about the issues that you don't like the girls, and you get a crush on a nice, cute boy, and it really was lonely at the moment that you cannot share the feelings that you have.
Yeah, and even if you are in a position, or back then were in a position to come out, it didn't really solve anything because I was we're a similar age, and for back in that day I was pretty young with being open and public. I thought I was bi, and I came out around 14, 15, I think. But what and I came out because I knew, and I felt like it was nothing to be ashamed about. But the response was horrible, and I didn't find any connection. And that only started when the internet came up a little bit, and we had forums and
the first prize and that kind of things.
It's really funny. That's why I started laughing. The first conversation in this series was with someone I know from back then, and I met on one of those forums.
ICQ we have. It was.
This was comingout.nl.
Right. The strange thing is because if you feel the loneliness, you said you feel like a freak or some not natural person, like the norm.
An outsider.
Yeah, and
I think more even an outsider, because there were a lot of things that I knew people thought that I was weird, which I didn't really care about. Like I presented goth, and I embraced that. I was proud of it. But there were other people who were also in alternative styles, so I had some connection there. With this, I had no connection.
Yeah, and I think that's difficult with a lot of people. We don't want to talk about it because you already feel special when you are LGBT, because we only are 10% of the community or of the world community, and there's a lot of people. Believe me, 10% sounds little, but there are a lot of million people are LGBT. And then if you have to talk about the second thing, because also in the straight world, they are not talking about loneliness. And
absolutely.
And that's why it's so important that we all over the world have to talk about these feelings, and about that it's okay to feel sometimes lonely, but it's not okay to feel loneliness. And that's why I always ask people, how are you? And I always ask the second, but how are you real?
Yeah.
And that's so important to ask.
Yeah, and that's a thing, and it's in multiple languages and cultures. It's the same way. The how do you do? The hey, how are you? In Dutch we say hoe gaat het? In German they say wie geht's?
Yeah.
It's a greeting,
Yeah.
but it's not meant as a proper question.
Yeah.
At some point, when I overcame this thing of not talking about loneliness, I decided that anytime someone asks me, how are you, even if it's as a greeting, to respond honestly.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And some people don't want to hear it. And what I always reply then is, well, why did you ask?
Yeah, but I think it's not only that they don't know how to react.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult to talk about, because we always learned about talking about the positive things.
Yeah.
And it's only to talk about positive because we don't want to bother somebody with our problems. So we learn to keep it for ourselves.
Yeah, the grave mistake.
Yeah, and it's so important that you can say, yeah, you know, I had a shitty day because this, and this. And then it's okay that people say, oh, okay. And you can say, yeah, it's no problem. We don't have to talk like Dr. Phil about it, but it's important to say,
yeah,
it's okay. Next it gets better, or
yeah.
Keep
on.
And
I think what makes people most uncomfortable about honest conversations about feelings like that is that they not just don't know what to say, but they fear to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to actually say the wrong thing. There is no the wrong thing.
Yeah, you can say, oh, it's good that you are feeling bad.
Yeah, that's wrong, but everybody knows that.
Yeah.
As long as you try your best, you can literally say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's a perfectly fine answer.
Ask, what can I do for you to make it, your day better?
Yeah, indeed. Ask, or indeed just admit that you don't know how to do it. Yeah. You can even say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I don't really know how to respond with it, but thank you for trusting me.
Yeah.
That's also an important one.
Yeah.
Let people know that you're safe to talk to.
Yeah.
I want to give a very, very big thanks to Gay and Drag Bar Bonaparte, who not only hosts us but sponsors this entire project. Gay and Drag Bar Bonaparte in Rotterdam is one of the oldest drag bars in the Netherlands and definitely worth a visit for everyone. Everyone is welcome here, no matter your age, your gender, your sexuality. And as Bonaparte has proven, everyone gets along when they have a nice drink in their hands. Bonaparte is a night bar and there are regular drag shows as well. All the info, address, opening hours, etc., their socials you can find in the description below. Once again, a very big thank you to Gay and Drag Bar Bonaparte. Now, let's get on with our conversation.
Yeah, and these are the important questions when you are outsider. I think for yourself, it's so important when you are feeling real loneliness. Find connection.
Yeah.
Go to meetings. Go to volunteer jobs. Try to make contact, and because you can see that there are a lot of people really want to make contact with you, and absolutely, they are interested in how are you, and don't go into drugs or to fill up something about your loneliness. I know, because a lot of people are using drugs or having sex or online. You really don't want to know how many people are using their telephone now, because they are feeling lonely and want to try to know what the friends are doing. But this is the most dangerous thing, because you see that everybody's happy beside of you, and it's fake.
And I mean, it's not the moments you see are not per se fake, but it's a fraction of someone's life. People tend to only share their happy moments, things they're proud of, things they've achieved.
Yeah.
But you're looking at a list of someone's highlights. You're
Yeah.
not looking. You're not looking into someone's life. There are people who are open about everything and anything. There are people who basically use social media as a diary, and everyone has their own style in it. But mostly, and especially with the younger generation, it's just photos of happy moments.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not the biggest problem. Is when I started my work at the COC, there was the first month I had to go to a march of somebody who was around 15 and really got bullied, not only at their outside their house but also online. And she committed suicide, and you can really feel that her mother was close with her. Everybody in her family was close with her, also a few friends. But she really still feel lonely.
I can absolutely relate to that, especially looking back at my teens, because I come from a very, very supportive family, and people who watch my channel more often know that because my parents actually join me in my videos.
Yeah,
they're amazing, and it has always been like that. Like even if they found something hard to deal with, or we always had open conversations about everything, and I was always supported, and it was always warm. But I was bullied terribly in school, and for years and years, if not decades, that defined how I felt about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly had my first suicidal episode at the early age of 13 years old.
It's young.
Yeah, and I did not talk about it at home because I thought that was something that I needed to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I had no resources. And because I was happy at home, I thought about it a lot later in life.
Yeah.
Probably because I was happy at home, I didn't want to talk about it there. Because it was good.
Yeah.
That was the place where everything was good and fine. And I wouldn't want to ruin it by being sad or by being a sad person.
Yeah, do you know that it's difficult to talk about this issue because there's a lot of trigger warnings. But do you know that every 40 seconds in America, somebody in our community is trying to commit suicide?
Yeah.
It's for every 40 seconds.
It's insane. It's really insane to try to wrap your mind around something like that.
Yeah, it's so difficult, and that's why it's so important to talk about these issues, and not only in the United States, also in England, also in the Netherlands. There are so high numbers, and also in the media they don't talk about these issues only if it's real obvious, like jumping in front of a train or something like that. But we don't talk. The media is not talking about it because we don't want to make people upset.
Yeah.
And that's why it's. Yeah.
And that's why we get to a point where things like these keep happening.
Yeah.
Because we don't talk about feeling lonely, loneliness occurs. Because we don't talk about loneliness, people get lost in these emotions.
You get sick about it.
And you literally get sick.
Yeah. And get depressions and that kind of things. And you get starting the negative thought. It's because I also get the question, is it okay to think about that? And I always say everybody is thinking about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you want to know what's after this life. And it's normal to think about it. But it's not normal to think, it's not normal, it's not okay. It's not okay to think about the way you want to to lose your life.
There's a really big difference in thinking about death or thinking about dying, or especially thinking about taking your own life.
Yeah.
There are so many differences in between, and there are a lot of things that are normal, and especially because I 99% agree with what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of people who have dealt with suicidal tendencies and suicidal thoughts in their lives, never really lose that thought process. The intention behind it does go away when you get better. So I for instance, I absolutely do not want to die. I am happier than I've ever been, and I'm literally insanely happy sometimes.
Sometimes I wish I had a glass ball to show people who want to commit suicide that it can come better.
It can get better. It really does. But that doesn't mean that because it has been in my system for so long that sometimes a thought like that pops up. Yeah. Oh, what if I cross the street right now, for instance?
Yeah.
But that's just an invasive thought at that moment that does not align with the way I feel. And thoughts like that, I think that's also something that never ever gets talked about, not even in psychiatry. It's normal. The thing is it just a thought, and what is the emotion behind it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I think it's important that that's why it's important to talk about it. Like it's normal, like we're doing it now, because I'm ambassador at 113. It's in Holland. It's a suicide number where you can call if you feel lonely and you want to talk about, or you have the feelings about it and you want to talk about somebody with it.
Basically a crisis line for when you have suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm ambassador to talk with the government about it, with organizations to make them strong, to give them campaigns, to learn how to talk about suicides, because it's so difficult when, I know the first time, but when a kid came to me and said, Maarten, I don't know if I want to live anymore. I froze because I didn't know how to react on it, because I don't want, if I'm going to ask, what are your thoughts or something, I'm afraid that I'm going to make it stronger.
Yeah.
And if I'm not talking about it and just shush it away, it's what happened then. So it was really, that's why I was learning about it, and learned that it's important to talk about it. When somebody came to me like, I have these thoughts, then you just have to talk about it, about these. What are your thoughts? Do you already have a date for it?
But I think the first thing, and that's also what we said earlier on how to respond when someone confides in you about feeling lonely. Recognize those person's feelings. Make sure that they know that they are heard.
And they are safe with you, and you are not telling to your family.
Thank them for confiding in you. That also gives yourself a little bit of time to deal with, okay, this is going on right now. Have a response like that ready. When someone comes to you with such heavy emotions and heavy information, I mean, it takes a toll on you too, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It is a very heavy and complicated subject.
Yeah.
But what you can do as a first response is always say, thank you for confiding in me.
Yeah.
Maybe even ask them, do you want to talk some more about it? Have some questions ready for yourself to delay the conversation so you're ready for it.
Yeah, but if you're ready, if you're ready,
have the conversation.
Yeah, but also if you're not ready, you can, when you get starting with the emotion and it's difficult to say, but think like talking about cars or talk about some things that you don't feel the emotions behind it. Because it's important that you have to talk about it. And
absolutely.
The thing is, don't talk about, the important thing is what I learned is talk about what kind of feelings do you have, what thoughts does a person have, and really dig deep, because if you know that somebody gets programmed, like saying, oh, I have to buy this medicine and I want to do it on Friday because my mother is not home, or that kind of things, you know that the person is really far
really
in the
close.
thoughts.
Yeah.
And the important thing is, every time at the end, I think we have to call your doctor and find a solution with you for it.
Yeah.
And if you want, I can join you to your doctor and talk about it, because we are not specialists in treating the thoughts.
Absolutely.
But it's important that you find medical solutions for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you can really get from, like you're saying, if you can, it's like, sounds silly, but it's like a broken leg. You can heal about it, and you can, and if you find the problem of your thoughts, you can fix it.
Yeah.
And these are not difficult, but you have to talk about it. And I know it's so shitty to talk about these feelings.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to feel special. And we know we already feel special.
And especially when you're in a position like that, a lot of people feel like they are a burden.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are too much. And that's why it's also so important when someone confides in you, to really recognize that you are grateful that they came to you.
Yeah.
And like really imprint it on them that it's okay to talk about, and that's validate those feelings.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. There's only one, while there are of course many very obvious wrong things you could do, but not taking a person serious who is talking about ending their life or committing suicide,
or saying that they're feeling lonely.
Yes, or anything in that realm, not taking a person serious who is talking about things like these is really, really horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Always.
But it's okay to say to the person, oh, wait a minute, I have to time out, because I have to, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to act on it.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say it, that you're afraid about it, or you're shocked about it, or oh my God, I didn't know that you have these feelings.
Yeah.
It's okay to say that.
Because you have feelings too, and they are also valid.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's I think that's a very, very, very important thing. It's important to definitely dig in deep and have that conversation, but don't lose yourself along the way.
No, and
that is very, very important. That's really hard.
Yeah, and to all those kids there are so many programs, and also not kids, also adults. There are so many programs. There are so many numbers where you can call, like the Trevor Project in the United States, where you can call or have a chat with them, or sending an email to talk about these issues. It's okay. It's okay to call 113 in the Netherlands, and there are in England there are also important programs. It's
once again at the end of this video, we'll list everything in a slide, and all the information will also be in the description of this video.
Yeah.
I will probably repeat that a few more times, but I think it's very important.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a really important issue.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to explain why we are having this conversation in the context of our community.
Yeah, because it's a real big issue, and it's so strange because it always has been an issue in our community. Even when I was not even born, it was the loneliness. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of also the jokes that we are making. The hard, rough jokes is because it's a way of acting with or handling these emotions.
Yeah,
and
it's a way of dealing, coping.
Yeah, and also I know a lot of people are doing drag like you are, or doing anime or some kind of thing. It's a way of put your life a little bit as beside and then have another life. It's okay, but try to create your own main life to heal that before. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And the thing is, because people often say, well, yeah, but in the rest of the world, this is a big problem too. But if you look at numbers only, the rates are so much higher.
Yeah.
In the queer community as a whole, in the trans community specifically, even higher.
But it's not only in our community. I know also, I'm studying the Second World War, the Holocaust. It's important for me to also have this position. And I know a lot of Jewish people killed themselves when when Hitler came to capture the country, because they really were afraid that they were losing their life, so they committed suicide. So it's not, and from their religion on, it's not okay to do it.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of religion people also, because we don't talk about these feelings, they also commit suicide.
Yeah, and of course it doubles up your chances of having to deal with struggles like these in your life are higher when you are from several of those communities.
Yeah.
When you are, say, a person of color and queer and trans and from a religious background, it stacks up.
Yeah, it's double points.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to realize that every minority group in some way has a higher risk because being part of a minority also does something to your psyche.
Yeah, it's true.
That on itself, having mental health issues alone also amplifies your risk of ending up in situations like this. And in that case, I can speak from personal experience as well. It took a while for me to get diagnosed because I have a bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
And a lot of people struggle with serious mental health issues and also depression. Depression is a mental health disease.
Yeah.
It is not a state of mind. It is not a mood. It is a disease, and it is to be taken very, very seriously, as goes with, for me, bipolar disorder, but so many other mental health problems. There's such a big stigma around it, and there's so much prejudice around it that makes it hard for people to be open about it.
Yeah.
I decided very early on that if I was ever going to be able to deal with the baggage of my mental health problems, I needed to be open about it. And I needed to be very open about it. So I literally wrote about it on social media. I blogged for a mental health blog for a while. One of the national psychiatry or psychology magazines actually picked one or two of my blogs up.
Yeah.
I should start writing again, probably. But I decided for me that was the way, because it gave me an outlet. I could talk about it. I could talk about it on my own terms. And I could reach other people who previous me, who didn't have an example like that, felt alone and felt like they felt special. Lonely and special and weird, and like there was no one else that was struggling with the same things. And sometimes I hear from people like, why are you throwing the hard stuff out there and social media is meant for fun? But 100 people can say that to me, and I get one message from one person that says, thank you for sharing this. You gave me the courage to go to my GP and make an appointment with a psychologist. that weighs so much heavier and it is so much more important than that one cranky person who is too lazy to scroll through your story.
Yeah.
And so there I'm very harsh in.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to read something, don't read it.
Yeah, and also also learn about your. I learned the way how I'm acting now. I'm living, and it's like everybody have his bucket, and every time if you have something shitty, you put water inside the bucket, and it gets heavier because you also have to take the bucket with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes when it got to the top, it's so difficult to walk and go out of bed and go do your things, and you feel it's so important that you learn how to take water outside of the bucket.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing to do is talk about it.
Yeah.
And go to happy places. It's for me. I always. It's a tough. I had a tough job because you get a lot of negativity to yourself because you're a leader of community, and you don't want to know how many shitty reactions you always get. And I sometimes get pain in my middle finger to show everybody who hate us. But it's so important to find a place where you can be yourself. And for me, I love to go to theme parks, and in Holland we have
wind in your hair.
in Holland we have the Efteling. It's a fairy tale world, and for me, I always go alone. And everybody say, alone, that's strange, but for me, it's so nice to have a positive vibe around me, to fill up my battery and to empty my bucket, and it's so important for you, and also. Movies where I can cry because it's an
outlet.
Oh, I love to cry.
Oh, that's the thing that I miss most since transitioning. I rarely cry, and that's actually a chemistry thing. On on chemical testosterone, it's literally harder to cry. And I'm a very emotional person. That hasn't changed, so I feel all the same things. But I lost the physical outlet by means of crying. So I'm looking for other ways, and that's going very well. But like you said, it's so important to find your outlet to deal with your struggles, and it can be different for everyone.
Reading a book, watching movies, talking with people.
Yeah, and that's why, like you said, it's very important to talk about things, especially things that need help or fixing. But sometimes it is also you know best when the moment is when you're ready to talk, when you want to talk. Don't let anyone else tell you how to deal with your problems. It's also an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because everyone has a different way of coping, and that's fine. Yeah. What is important though
what is coping?
Coping is to properly deal with something.
All right.
So to process and deal in the same way.
Yeah, because coping, I know the term, but it's...
Yeah. Like a lot of people have coping mechanisms. Yeah. And coping mechanism has a more negative connotation.
It's normal.
Yeah, it's finding tricks to deal with something. Yeah. And it can be very helpful.
But it's important to know what's your mechanism, and also... You have some don't see the problem, you're ignoring it, or you are making war with everybody, but not talk about the issue, but about everything that's a problem, but not that issue.
And if that's a thing that you know that you do, let the people closest to you know. Like, if I start doing this, please confront me about it, because probably I'm not noticing, but something else is going on. Yeah. Everything you know about yourself that is important to take care of you, to perhaps even save your life, or at least your mental health, share with people how they can help you. At the moment, you are in a good place.
Yeah.
Because we can all get into a bad place, and that's the moment that it's sometimes hard for yourself to realize, okay, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Well, usually there's if it happens more often, there's usually a recognizable path that you walk before you go there.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to tell people, like, when I'm getting angry, just say, hey, maybe it's smart to listen to music, or close yourself, or do the thing that you are loving. Like, if you love to ride horses, or do the things. But just say to people, like, if I get crunchy or when I don't have my day, please say these words, and then.
Yeah.
So I know for myself.
Help someone else to help you.
Yeah.
Because
So
that's
important.
the way you create an environment around you where you can all keep your sanity.
Yeah, and the funny
To
thing,
put it in
the funniest thing is, when I was feeling lonely and I got depressed, and my problem was I was really, but I was playing games, and yeah, I started around 8 o'clock in the evening, and then in the morning I hear the birds
chirping,
and I thought, oh my God,
man, time to go to work.
Yeah, and the problem is that was not the solution. The solution was to talk about it and to see that I have the problem, and that's why I always say it's okay to find a way to cope with it, but it's not okay to lose yourself in your coping mechanism.
Yes. Some coping mechanisms can be healthy. Some coping mechanisms can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Like addictions, for instance.
Yeah, yeah, because you really lose yourself.
Yeah.
And it's really important to find a solution. And the funny thing is, when I was talking with people, that I have the idea that I don't feel happy, but it's strange because when I was gaming, it was okay and I'm happy. And I don't know the feeling. And then somebody told me, yeah, I think you're fleeing away.
It's a distraction.
Yeah, from your problems.
Yeah.
So what's your problem? And it was so nice to talk about my feelings and it was so nice to give the place, and that somebody said, yeah, you have to find a solution for it, and maybe this can help you. And I learned that the people who were closest to me, I thought were my friends, they were not my friends, because they were only there when I'm at the pub and I'm giving their booze and making jokes and making funny and be the clown. But these were not the people who were saying, Maarten, I think you're not okay. And these people you really need. And
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that doesn't mean that people you can just hang out with and have fun with are not valuable. Because actually, you also need people like that. But it is not a one and all. And that's a very important thing. Sometimes you meet people in your life which you can do anything with.
Yeah.
Laugh and cry and whatever. But sometimes you also just have that group of people that you like to hang out with and have silly fun with, and maybe even have a drink too much. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. As long as you are aware what part they play in your life.
Yeah. And it's okay to say, like, I have a lot of friends, but I really need a few good friends. And it's possible to find a good friend out of the group. But it's also okay to talk with your sister or your brother or your mother or your grandparents or your neighbor or somebody else. It doesn't mean that a special friend or a good friend have to be somebody who's a friend, but can also be your family or your colleague.
Absolutely. And always know that it is okay to reach out to a professional.
Yeah.
And reaching out to a professional doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go into therapy. Most GP offices and most healthcare centers also have mental health assistants, for instance. Or you can reach out to a life coach. Or
on internet there are some tips.
Yeah, there are so many other professionals that you can talk to if you want to.
Yeah.
But the most important thing, do not do that as a solution because I don't want to bother the people I care about. Because you are never bother. People who
No.
care about you want you to be okay. People who care about you want you to feel good. And people who care about you will take the time to sit with you, to talk with you, and to help you.
And also in our community, it's always when we know that somebody attempts suicide, or it's always uh, everybody saying, "Oh, why didn't we know? Or why
Yeah.
we could not help them?" Because and you give not your you don't fix the problem. The problems are still there, but you are not there, and your family get the problems then, and your friends and your loved ones.
I've lost so many people along the line, right? Some really close to me and some further away. Um, and there's it never gets easy because it shouldn't happen. One is too many.
Yeah,
And yeah, this really hits hard and this really hits home, and that's okay too. And this is why we are having a conversation like this, because it's okay to show your emotions,
yeah,
and it's okay to reach out to someone and say, "Hey, are you okay? How are you dealing with this?
yeah,
I've noticed you haven't been coming around that much." Stuff like that, because we live in such a fleety and fast society that we forget to look around us and see how the
Oh,
people.
it's I hate it. I hate it. Really, really hate it that our main life is happening on social media.
Yeah.
The world is so beautiful outside of social media, and I struggle a lot with it because for my work I have to show that on social media because everybody can see what I'm doing and what my story is.
Yeah, and as
And
a public figure, that's
yeah,
really important.
but I hate it because I see a lot of people are happy, and sometimes I think, why do I not go like this or holidays, or why don't I bought that car, or why don't I have this house, or I'm single, and a lot of people are saying, or having kids and having married, and it makes me really shitty. Like why I don't have these things, and then every time when I'm looking at Will, I'm saying, hey, sometimes I get a nice guy and I will have a family. And if I'm not, it's okay too. But I love my work, my life, because I can help people, and every life I can save, every person I can make smile more. It make my day, and
Yeah.
it's so important for me to do this kind of things than go on expensive holidays and buy
Yeah, I mean,
expensive clothes and that kind of things.
absolutely. And but that's like it's so shallow how
Yeah,
we live online. I have some friends who are not on social media at all, and I have a very different relationship with them.
you can
Like
talk.
I sent them
Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't talk to every one of them very often, but I send them photos in private. For instance, it's such a different
I make jokes about it.
connection.
It was so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, or even photos of myself. Like one of my best friends is not on social media. We used to live like almost next door to each other, and now we
Yeah.
live in different cities, and we both have very, very busy lives. We miss each other dearly, but we are both not very good with calling
Mhm.
and sending text messages and stuff like that. So we send each other photos. Like
Yeah.
every drag look I do, I send to my friend, and they're so happy with it each time. And even though sometimes I only get a heart on it, or
Yeah.
it's just another means of staying in touch. And yes, it is still technology, but it is personal too.
Yeah, but it's other way than I like. It's okay to have social media, and
Yeah.
but the important thing is that you have to know that I'm always making a competition. Like every week, I get a time. You are so many times you are online,
Yeah.
and I'm always happy that I always try to make it less and less because
Your screen time was down by 1% last week.
come back, come back. Yeah, but I'm always happy because I sometimes it's when I'm on holiday, everybody say, hey, why don't you make pictures? Because I want to see it by myself.
I am the same way. I mean, when I go out to dinner, I usually don't photograph my food, for instance, because yes, I will maybe write a post that I've had a lovely dinner and I've been with friends and whatever, but photos? Why?
Yeah, you cannot
My
taste
phone is in my pocket.
yeah. And it's so important that's why we sometimes forget to learn to talk like we're having now, because we learn to talk on social media, short messages sending you back, and also when sometimes I have a discussion when people are sending hate reaction, I always try to tell the story about it, and I always see that people cannot read the whole story because they are too focusing on the short things.
Yeah.
And it's like now, before that you had YouTube with large movies from sometimes an hour from your YouTube hero, and now almost we have to make the short versions because nobody have the concentration to show it, and that's why it's so important that we are talking, because
absolutely
when you're talking you get a other kind of energy. You feel more appreciated because I can give some personal things to you and you can say some personal things to me, so we are growing in our
even
feelings.
if I want to bring something across and reach a wider audience, I know I have to add a photo or some GIF or something, preferably something moving,
because otherwise
or at least very, very bright to catch the attention, because especially with longer texts, people just don't read it. And I try to do a lot of community work online as well, and especially when things are happening. And I've always been a writer. I'm a poet, and when I've done some poetry, I do add a photo there because I know without it, it will reach 1/10 of the people.
Yeah, it's also
I have over 1,000 followers on my personal Facebook account, which is also a business account. But if I post something like that without a photo, it reaches like 2 handfuls of people maybe.
Yeah.
And if I post it with a photo, it reaches people who don't even follow me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so
algorithms are so
shit. Yeah, I know. And that's why I always say, also the bubble they're creating. Like I have my work account. I have to follow some extreme right people because I have to know what they are doing and they're acting, so I can give their try to find a solution for these kind of problems. But it's always, when I'm looking on YouTube or Facebook, it's always negative and really depressive. And when I'm in my private space, it's really the bubble that
you want to live in.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Like I always get depressed. Why do I watching these movies or these pictures, and I really get upset. It's so strange that Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and they are working like that.
Yeah, what I do appreciate is that it's easier to connect or stay connected with people who live further away, for instance. And also, especially within our community, there are a lot of groups on Facebook, for instance, where things do get properly discussed. And I think it's kind of similar to what we had with the forums back in the day.
Yeah.
And serious conversations do happen there. And the older generation, who is also on social media now, tends to be more open about what's happening in their lives and give proper updates. And I really love that, and to stay connected with these people as well.
Learn from your elderly.
Yeah, these are also the people who are connecting with me more.
Yeah.
And
and you know, the strange thing with when I was young, I really thought, oh, the elderly, they want something about me because I'm young and I I was still not as big as I'm now. But the funny thing is, I'm talking a lot with elderly, and they can give me so much advice. They're saying, Maarten, the problems you are fighting now, we already fight then.
Yeah.
And this is this is a system how we work. And also, when I feel lonely, they can give you the advice that you need.
Because they've been there.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's now a bigger divide than ever between the youngest generation in our community and the oldest generation, because a lot of history hasn't been passed on, and I think the youngest generation don't fully realize what the oldest generation has been through to get where we are now.
They really fought for our freedom.
Yeah,
yeah,
they absolutely did, and the things like terminology and how we approach things and how we deal with each other has changed so much and so fast over the last years. And when someone older, for instance, says something that is by now seen by the younger generation as something that can be hurtful or something like that, the younger generation tends to get really angry immediately.
And the problem is they don't know it, because when I was young, you only had LGBT.
Yeah.
And T was not from trans, but it was for travesty. Or the drag.
Something in the middle. I mean, now we have transgender, then we had transsexual. Yeah. That was a thing, but the T was both transsexual and transvestite, and I think it kind of a lot of people also thought it meant the same thing, and that has nothing to do with prejudice or how people look at it. But a lot of people back in the day had no means to physically transition, so there was much bigger overlap. There were a lot of people who would now identify as transgender, who had no other choice but to lead a double life, and would be labeled, and even labeled themselves, as transvestites.
Or gay people, they were bisexual, and they thought they were gay because they love men. So, and I think that's important. I always explain to the younger people that it's okay that somebody make mistakes. Also, your pronounces. But it's not okay to. It's okay, but you have to talk about it and say and explain why it's important for you, and
why something hurts you.
And it's not
because you're fighting the wrong people if you are fighting our elders. I'm sorry.
They are so important for us.
And yes, there's sometimes it can be cringy, and it can sometimes even be a little hurtful, especially if you do have a reasonable sit down with someone and they just don't want to budge because that's not how we did it in my day. But that doesn't, I mean, that makes it so that they can say some hurtful things and some cringy things. But that doesn't take away everything they did. We are standing on their shoulders, because we wouldn't have the freedom to be who we are, to self-identify as we do now.
And don't forget that when they were young, when they were at our age, when they were LGBT, they went to the mental clinic and get electroshock therapy, and that kind of even get killed because they were LGBT.
You were either considered mentally ill and or illegal. People were put in jail because they had same-sex relationships.
And they get in the newspaper, so your house boss knew, and they kicked out of your house. You get fired from your work, and
there were rules on how many pieces of clothing from the opposite sex you were allowed to wear. And otherwise, you would get arrested and stripped down butt naked in the police station with
making
everyone
pictures
watching.
And
that's the time that some of these people came from. Not to mention, they've dealt with the AIDS epidemic.
Every week you lose your friend of age.
Because there were no meds back then. There were some experimental meds that did nothing.
The government was saying like, oh, it's gay cancer, so it's okay. Yeah. Let her die. And the government, the people who have to help us, they didn't help us.
And there was for the longest time it wasn't quite clear how HIV and AIDS were spread.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were also living in solitude and afraid to come out and stayed virgins till well later in life because they were so afraid.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what that must be like, but I think someone even younger than we are has a harder time to imagine that. But I think that's why it's so important to keep talking about things like that.
Yeah, I always advise people to watch the movie or the TV series It's a Sin with Ollie from the Great Britain was doing a song festival, Eurovision. It's a Sin. It's about a group of teenagers were in the beginning of the AIDS period. Yeah. And you can see how the world reacted on the LGBT community then.
Yeah.
But also programs like Pose about the community of the community in New York around the 60s.
Where you can see ballroom scene.
Yeah, where you can see that people...
Or the true documentary where Pose is based on. Oh my goodness, why can't I come up with a name now?
Yeah, a lot of things around Stonewall riots.
Yeah, but this is specifically the ballroom scene. There was a documentary made, and Pose is completely or mostly based on that, and that's why there are also characters in Pose who actually have existed. It's oh my, I can't stand this.
Maybe
Paris is burning.
Oh yeah,
of course, Paris is burning.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so important because now we have to learn from what happened then, because the same shit where they were fighting in the 60s, like Harvey Milk was fighting against, right, about the politics who are saying that when you are gay, you're a pedophile, and when you are trans, you were all the kind of shit that we are hearing now. These were also in the 60s. And that's why we have the rainbow flag. That's why we have...
And the biggest difference is now, not everywhere, honestly, but in a lot of countries now we have the government somewhat on our side. Laws are so much better. And yes, there's a lot of things are going backward, and we have to be aware of that, and we need to talk about that. And we need to, I could make so many more episodes of this series because there are so many things that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
But to come back to this, because I think we came under generational divide. But I think we can also turn that around by acknowledging that we as queer people, or as a rainbow community, or as the alphabet soup group, no matter how you want to call it, we also have a lot in common, and we have places where we can find each other and connect.
Yeah.
And even though those are usually places where we come to party and have fun, we can build the best friendships there and even find our own family.
You get your family, you get it, and the LGBT community is your chosen family.
Yeah.
And it's so important to have them around you, because you really need them. The young people, the old people, every kind of shit we have in our family.
Yeah, and everyone in between.
Yeah.
I mean, the sub-communities are standing farther apart than they have ever been, I think.
I guess.
And that's also because back in the day with the older generation, there weren't all these. There wasn't so much terminology, and everyone was just standing side by side, and
Yeah,
they
there.
thought everything, most things were accepted in what they back then just called the gay community.
Yeah, but I think that the biggest problem that they had then, well, like we have now, that we are separated because of our interest and our the subgroup we are chosen to. Then they were fighting about the color of people.
Yes.
That was the
Oh
issue
yeah,
then.
yeah. There was a lot of racism.
Oh,
There still is a lot of
yeah.
racism in our community, and there is a lot of discrimination in general. There is ableism. There is ageism.
But the one thing that they had was they were fighting for the same rights.
Yes.
And that's why they were close together.
Yes.
And I think it's important that we learn that we still have to come together and become close, because we need each other very, not only about the things that we were talking about outside world, but also from inside.
Absolutely.
Because we
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to talk. And also that's why this issue was important for me, because we all have the same shitty feelings, like loneliness, like suicide. Because I bet if you ask somebody, they will say, yeah, I had sometimes that feeling too, like loneliness or depression or suiciding. But it's so...
I cannot imagine anyone actively in the queer community who has not lost someone.
No.
Through
Everybody.
suicide.
No.
Or through otherwise
and also the things like trying to heal or fixing yourself from your LGBT, like therapy or conversion therapy.
Oh my
It's you cannot fix it. It's in your DNA, and that's why it's important to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and believe you me, you can learn to embrace a lot of things about yourself. And apart from all my queerness, which kind of oozes out of me, so I can't really run away from it. Also,
I love it.
Also having a background with psychiatric treatment and mental illness, I'm so very, very open about that too. I'm also chronically ill, and these are things you can lead a full life with a lot of things. Talking about intersectionality, what we were talking about earlier, I am a gay trans man and a drag queen. Come together, like I mean, I feel at home anywhere. Also, I'm exploring the fetish scene a little bit.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And that's why we need to talk about it, because not only you, like, the important thing is that I'm really happy that people were like our real kings and queens, like Diana, Queen Diana, or Princess Diana at the moment. Then she really took time to talk with people from our community, and they made it okay to see that it's okay to talk with people who are HIV or people who are depressed.
Was back then unheard of what she did.
Yeah.
That she shook the hands of someone who was visibly suffering from AIDS.
Yeah, but also our Queen Maxima from the Netherlands. She have a sister who committed suicide, and she really, when it happened, she talked about it, and it's so important because she talked about it. A lot of people were saying, "Okay, I have to talk with somebody about it, otherwise it will happen to me too." Yeah. And that's why it's so important that leaders from our community, people are important, like the kings and the queens are from our community. We have to talk about these issues. And Pride is not only a party, but it's also important to tell these kind of things at Pride.
Yes, and especially, I mean, it's awesome that we can party now, but Pride started out as a protest because we didn't have the rights, because people were ostracized. because all of these things that from the beginning have led to more loneliness and more depression and more negative feelings in our community, more so than any other community whatsoever.
No, I think every community have these kind of things, but they have it on their own way.
Absolutely, but I mean, if you look at numbers alone,
we have the biggest issue. But I think
that's why I'm so grateful that you were willing to, not only willing but suggested to sit down with me with this heavy conversation, which I kind of had to swallow a little bit before I responded when I saw this, because I know for me it's a close to home subject, but it's so important.
Yeah, and the strange thing is, for us it's normal to talk about it because we talk about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't talk about it, and I don't want to lose people from our community anymore.
No.
It's okay. This have to finish.
I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. I want to party with you.
Yeah. and make fun and join our community, because our community can really open up the world and make it more acceptable and make it more peaceful. And
I think so too. And please, I want to stop burying people from our community, and especially I want to stop burying our youth.
Yeah, that's too late.
And that doesn't mean that the youth need more attention, but young people under 25 have literally not developed the part of their brain that lets them rationalize things in a way that they can even imagine rationally that things will get better. Yeah. We are the ones that need to teach them that. We are the ones that need to help them and guide them in the way.
And understand that when they are bullied, that also we were bullied.
Yeah.
And that this was our mechanism to cope with it. And to learn to say, fuck you. Fuck you, that you are not allowed to make fun about me. And if you do it, hey, we can solution it, like going to the police, finding help for it.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, we also need to realize to not make small of young people's emotions, because we tend to look at it like that's true for everything. We look at everything from our own frame of mind.
Yeah.
But like I said, a young person literally is not able to make certain connections. And what for us feels like a very frivolous or minimalistic thing is for them can mean the end of their world. Yeah. Their world at that moment as they know it.
And we forgot it because we don't want to remember the feelings that we had then. Because they were painful.
But it also fades, because memories fade, and especially memories of emotions. Yeah. And it's normal that we don't fully grasp and we don't really remember what it was like for us. But you don't have to remember. All you have to do is take someone seriously.
And say, I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
And I don't make jokes about it.
But there's a saying that, especially in the more spiritual communities, very used, and that is, I hold space for you. And holding space for someone means that you let them know that they are welcome to come to you, that you are aware that they are struggling with something or dealing with something, and that when they're ready, they can approach you. And it's something that you can actively let people know.
Yeah, and I'm stupid, I forgot it for the issue. I have a pin from myself, and it's a safe pin. It's a pink version about it, and there's on the side, you're safe with me. Yeah. So it's always, and I always normally wear it with the pride flags above it, to tell people, also when they're not LGBT, that you are safe to talk about issues, and I'm not going to tell somebody else, because a lot of people want to feel safe.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Very,
people,
very important.
and really know that a lot of people don't feel safe now. And it's normal to don't. No, it's not okay to feel unsafe, but it's normal now that they are not unsafe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've hit all the important
Yeah.
points at this time. Before we round up, I once again will say at the end of this video, there will be a slide with information numbers as well as in the description of this video. If you need help, please reach out. We value you. You deserve to be here. You are beautiful and you are loved.
Yeah.
As are you, and I want to thank you very, very much for joining me today and for joining me in this project. And I have a small token of appreciation for you, which I kind of heard that you might not need because you already may have one or one similar.
I can always.
It's a pin.
Oh.
It's a rainbow flag combined with the transcribe.
Yeah, I didn't have that one. I have this separate, but yeah, I left it now. So thank you.
So thank you once again, and as for you all, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you know someone who this video can be useful for, please share it with them or share the information that we are giving. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Unfortunately, this was the last episode of this series, the series we don't talk about. I can make so many more episodes, so hopefully I get the opportunity to make a next series. For now, this was it. We still have about a week left in Pride Month, so happy Pride Month. And after this, I'm going back to my regular schedule of posting videos on Thursdays and Sundays. Once again, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe not to miss anything. Thank you for watching, and as always, until next time. Bye.
Bye.